This is exactly how you remind us that someone is the villain. We've reached episode 5 and things are getting crazy, so let's talk about it. Spoilers if you aren't up to date with Creature Commandos. I knew immediately this was Clayface. One, because I knew that Clayface was coming on the show. And then when I saw this well-respected doctor go nuts in her class and write lesbians on her chalkboard, I knew what was up. Even her students seemed genuinely shocked by her actions. But here's the thing, the mannerisms that we saw of this doctor in this classroom is so very different than the mannerisms that we saw in Cersei's interrogation room. I'm not sure if the doctor was Clayface when she was talking to Amanda Waller. Just something to think about. As I mentioned last episode, Frankenstein is so likable. And he says things that are very naive, but then you realize that he's actually very intelligent. He's astute. And his delusional thinking stems from his misogyny. I'm glad that they showed that scene of him fighting with the bride because I almost forgot myself. That Harry met Sally line really got me last episode. So I'm glad I was reminded multiple times this episode that I hate him. But God damn it, David Harbour, you are delivering these lines in such a way that I can't hate him. The way that he crashed out when he saw a cat on the leash, the way he just said gypsy shit, or even when Rick Flag told him to hide and he was like, I don't give a shit, I'm gonna do what I want. Hilarious. Oh, and how could I forget when he was talking to this old lady and he said, if I were blind, I'd kill myself. I had to pause. Hilarious. And Rick Flag couldn't wait to snitch on Amanda Waller. And once again, I'm not quite sure if Amanda is wrong here. Because as I mentioned before, I'm not quite sure if Clayface was the one to confirm Cersei's vision. And here's the thing, Rick Flag is doing the right thing if he's correct, but I'm not quite sure if he's going so hard because he thinks this is well-founded and because he knows Amanda Waller. I think it's more along the line that he really likes the princess. I'm sorry, but I couldn't get the screen grab of Clayface on the couch, so we're just gonna pretend like this is it here. But I've never seen gameplay on a cartoon. I thought that was really cool. Also, I would like to say that Clayface was feeding the cat, which I thought was very nice. This is the third superhuman fight that Rick Flag was in, and yeah, he got cooked. Which, once again, Creature Commandos is so good at power scaling. As I mentioned before, it's clear that Phosphorus was holding back when he fought against him, and he was more so outmaneuvering Frankenstein. Looks like Rick Flag may be out for good. I'm not sure if he's dead, but I gotta say, it's really refreshing to see a comic book cartoon actually have stakes. Speaking of stakes, I liked Alexei. I was very sad to see him go, but I am glad that Phosphorus at least acknowledged that everyone liked Alexei. He was charming. I also noticed that there's more trust in this team. We were able to suss out together that something is going on. He nodded and then they got ready to fight. Once again, no notes for the bride. I have to say, Phosphorus is getting more and more brutal with each fight, and it's pretty terrifying. There's something about the way that he took off his clothes before he took on that tank that really spooked me. I don't know, something about the way he kicked off his pants just made me uncomfortable. And then he walked through a tank like butter. Something about this scene right here reminded me of Dr. Manhattan. Maybe it's the way that he's standing. But yeah, I have a feeling that just like the comic books, this man is actually a villain. He's enjoying killing these people a little bit too much. I gotta once again tip my hat off to James Gunn because it would have been so easy to give Frankenstein this redemption story where, I don't know, we feel bad for him and somewhat want him to get with the bride. James Gunn is constantly reminding us that he is a creepy stalker, no matter how charming he is. He's hedonistic, and when something doesn't serve him, he dispatches it. This woman nursed him to health. And I will say, I do think there's a piece of him that felt like he was doing her a service here. Nah, he sucks. And I gotta remember that, especially as David Harbour delivers these lines. Because there was definitely a moment where I was like, man, maybe the bride should give him a chance. Once again, stellar episode. I was actually on the edge of my seat, particularly with the fight scenes. I was worried, especially since I'm not quite sure who I want to root for. There's a moment where I'm like, okay, they shouldn't kill the princess. Like, obviously she's innocent. But then I thought, is she? And that's what made this episode so good. I wanted them to win and get away, but I didn't want them to kill the princess. But I also wanted Rick to warn the princess. But then I didn't want him to warn the princess. It was a lot of conflicting feelings, and that is art. 5 out of 5, Frankie Flames. I understand why Rotten Tomatoes gave it 100%.